Okay, so before I start the lesson today, let's have first a review about factoring. If you still remember your factoring, this lesson is discussed in your grade 8 level. So let's start. Let's answer this one. 4 questions lang po ito. Just for me to know if you are aware or you still remember the factoring technique, if that's what you call it. Okay, so how do we factor number 1? Paano natin pina-factor si number 1? Okay, what we do is, if you are still familiar with the CMF, yung CMF na tinatawag natin, it's the common monomial factor. We get the GCF of this one. We get the GCF of the expression. So what's the GCF or the common monomial factor of 2x squared minus 4x? And that is 2x. Yun po yung common sa dalawa. So ilalabas mo siya. And then, yung matitira, yun ang iiwan mo sa loob ng parenthesis. So paano natin malalaman kung ano yung matitira sa loob? Madali lang po. Let's divide 2x squared to the common, to the GCF pala. So, let's divide 2x squared divided by 2x. The answer is x. Very good. X. And then negative 4x divided by 2x. And that is negative 2. Question. Okay po, how will you know if your answer is correct? Simple lang po. Just when you distribute this one, ito po ba yung sagot? Yun po yung malalaman natin kung tama yung sagot ninyo. Let's see. 2x times x, that is 2x squared. And 2x times negative 2, that is negative 4x. So, tama po yung factors natin. Okay, but we are just getting the factors. These are the product. Itong given na to, these are products. Ngayon, nangahanapin natin are the factors. Pag sinabing factors, yung numbers na pinag-multiply para makuha itong mga sagot na to. Okay po, so ito po yung pinag-multiply, si 2x at saka si x minus 2, sila po yung pinag-multiply to get 2x squared minus 4x. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. This one, this kind. How do we factor this kind of expression? Yung ganito. Naalala nyo pa po yung tinuruan kayo, yung may sum and difference po? Opo, ganun po yun. I-square root lang po natin si first term, we will square root the second term, and then magkapareho lang po sila ng number, tapos lalagyan lang natin ng minus at saka plus. Ganun po yun. Kapag perfect square root yung mga yan. 6x squared, square root na x squared ay x. Ayan, susulat natin si x dito, magkabilaan, and then square root ni 144, that is 12. Isang negative 12, at saka isang positive 12. Question? Yan po yun ha. Square root si first term, square root si last term. And then plus at saka minus lang po yung sign. And then let's proceed to the next one. Quadratic trinomial. This one is a quadratic trinomial. Paano tayo nagpa-factor ng quadratic trinomial? Simple lang po. Una muna. O sige, dalawang parenthesis. How do we factor quadratic trinomial? We factor the first term. What's the factor of x squared? Diba x at saka x? So, x dito at saka x dito. Yan. And then, to get yung dalawang number dito, ano yung kasama ni x, para malaman natin kung ano yung kasama ni x sa parenthesis, we will get the factor of c, or the last term. Factor po natin si c. Factor natin si c. So, factors ni c, or c is negative 3. What are the factors of negative 3? Po, wait lang po. Ayan. What's the factor of negative 3? Okay. Factors of negative 3 ay negative 3 times 1 and negative 1 times 3. Dalawa po yan ha. Ito at saka ito. Yan po yung factors ng negative 3. The question is, alin sa dalawa ang gagamitin natin? Is it this one or this one? How will we know? Una po, kailangan natin alamin kung factors ba talaga. Pareho po yan factors. Pangalawa, you check your B. Tingnan si B. Ano po ang B mo? 2. So, kailangan kapag inad mo yung dalawang factors na yon, the answer will be positive 2. So, alin sa dalawa ang magbibigay sa'yo ng positive 2? Negative 3 plus 1, that is equal to negative 2. And negative 1 plus 3 plus ha, kapag inad mo sila. the answer is positive 2. So, sino po ang positive 2? Ito. So, ito po yung gagamitin natin. Okay po? So, we will have negative 1 and positive 3. So, those are the factors of x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay po, tandaan, hahanapin yung factor ni negative 3 na kapag inad, ang sagot ay positive 2. Ang sagot ay yung middle term. Okay po? Urahin ko lang to Kapag nagfa-factor ng quadratic trinomial that your a is equal to 1, kapag ginagawa po natin to kapag yung a mo po, yung katabi ni x squared ay 1 lang. Ganyan lang po siya. A factor si x squared and then you find the factor of the last term, the factor of c that kapag inad, the answer will be the b. Okay po? And now let's proceed to this one. In this case, since more than 1 na po yung A natin, so ang gagawin natin dito will be the AC method. Okay, are you familiar with the AC method? Si A and C. Sino po ba ang A mo dito? Ito. Sino si C? Si negative A. Dito tayo dito po yung notes ko. Ayan, dito. Notes. AC method. When we say AC method, you will get the A. What's your A? 3. And what is your C? Negative 9. Multiply mo lang po silang dalawa. Multiply times 3 times negative 9. That is negative 27. Very good. And then from negative 27, you will find the factors of negative 27 na kapag inad mo po, the answer will be positive 6. Yan po yun. So let's find the number. Let's find the factors of negative 27 that when you add, the sum will be positive 6. So ano pong factors nito? Pwede po si negative 9 times 3. Yan. Pwede po si negative 3 times 9, positive 9. So, alin sa dalawang factor ang magbibigay sa'yo ng kapag inad mo, 6 ang sagot. Yan po, 6 ang sagot. Wait lang, di ko mahanap. Okay. 6 ang magiging sagot. And that is, very good, ito po. Yan, kapag inad mo si negative 3 plus 9, the answer will be positive 6. Okay po. Okay. And then, hindi pa tayo tapos i-rewrite po itong expression number 3. I-rewrite mo po yan. So, magiging 3x squared. Instead of writing this one, ang isusulat mo yung dalawang factors na to. So, that's plus 9x minus 3x and then yung letter C mo, minus 9. Yan po yun Yan. And then, next na gagawin mo po, wala pa po tayo hindi pa natin nakukuha si factor. The next thing you will do is group. I-group mo sila kung saan meron silang common factor. Okay, pagsasamahin ko si 3 at saka si 3, pagsasamahin ko si 9 at saka si 9. Pwede nyo pagsamahin si 9 at saka si 3, but make sure na kapag nag-group kayo, meron pong common factor. Okay po? Make sure po. And then, so sabi ko, pagsasamahin ko po si 3x squared at saka si negative 3x. Ayan po yun. And then, pagsasamahin ko si 9x at saka si minus 9. Ayan po yun Di pa ako tapos. Okay, next. Dito. So, pag pinagsama ko sila, ano po ang common factor ni 3x squared minus 3x? So, that is 3x. Ilalabas ko si 3x. And then, anong matitira? 3x squared divided by 3x, that is x. And negative 3x divided by 3x is negative 1. Yan po Next, the 9x. What's the common? That is 9. And then, 9 is the common. Common po si 9. So, ilalabas ko si 9. That's the GCF or the common factor ng dalawa. And then, 9x divided by 9, that is x. And negative 9 divided by 9 is negative 1. So, ayan na po Then, yung nasa labas na dalawa, pagsasamahin ko sila sa isang parenthesis, sa loob ng parenthesis. 3x plus 9. And then, kukopyahin ko lang po yung isa sa dalawa na magkapareho, x minus 1. And this one now, ito na po yung factors. Yan na po yung sagot. Ayan po yung hinahanap ko. That's the factor of 3x squared plus 3x minus 9. Ito yun. Ito yung factors. Ayan yun. Ayan yung dalawang number na kapag minultiply, ang sagot ay yung given na mga numbers, na mga expressions. Okay po? So, remember, this is just a review. Wala pang lesson. Review pa lang po ito. Kasi gagamitin natin to in our lesson for today. And that is, how do we solve quadratic equation na trinomial? Okay po? Or even not a trinomial. But how do we solve for the roots of a quadratic equation? And we will use the method of factoring. Kaya po nag-review tayo about factoring. So for today, you will learn how to how to solve quadratic equation by factoring. Remember, we have four ways in solving quadratic equation. We have the extracting the square root, we have the factoring, we have the completing the square, and we have the quadratic formula. So, tapos na po tayo sa extracting the square root. We use the square root property, and now we will talk about the factoring. Ngayon yun ang pag-uusapan natin. Medyo matrabaho to ha, but not mahirap. Matrabaho lang. Okay, let's proceed. Again, our aim is to be able to solve quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, let's start. Okay, but before we have an example, in solving quadratic equations by factoring, we use the zero product property. Okay, it states that if x and y, the x and y are your factors. If they are real numbers, then x times y equals 0 if and only if x is equal to 0 or y is equal to 0. That is equal, not minus, sorry. That is equal po. Yan. Equal po yan ha, that is equal, sorry. If and only if x is equal to 0 and y is equal also to 0. Yun po yung zero product property. Okay. And the steps. Of course, we should have steps. Steps. May 5 po tayong steps in solving quadratic equation by factoring. The first thing we will do is write the quadratic equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Kailangan po naka-standard form. Okay, standard form po. Let's say x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The next thing we will do is we will factor. Yung ginawa natin kanina sa review, gagawin po natin yun ngayon. We will factor the quadratic expression completely. Yung complete, yung pinaka-factor na po niya. And we will apply the zero product property. When we say applying the zero product property, we are just equating each factor to 0. And let's have the fourth one. Solve for the roots, the zeros, or the solution. Or for the x. Ibig sabihin lang po nun, nahanapin natin yung x, yung number 4. And last thing, of course, checking for the extraneous roots. Alam niyo naman po ang extraneous roots, di ba? Opo. So, we will check for the extraneous roots. Okay, now let's proceed. Okay, let's have the first example. So we're done with the steps. Now let's have an example. Let's apply those steps. So the first example is x squared minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. So the first thing we will do is, sabi nga po sa step, we will write it in standard form. So is equation number 1 or sample number 1 is already in standard form? Yes, it is. So, ikakopy lang po natin siya as is since nasa standard form na po siya. That's the step number 1. Always be in standard form ha. Kailangan naka-standard form po siya. That's 0. Sorry. Okay, and step number 2. Step number 2 po, ang gagawin nyo po ay if a factor. So, let's factor x squared minus 3x minus 4. So, factor po ha. Kapag ganito pong 1 lang ang numerical coefficient na x squared, all we do ay factor lang natin sa x squared. That's x and x. Tama? And to get the other factors po, ang gagawin po natin ay we have to find the factors of negative 4. Factors na negative 4 na kapag inad mo, the answer will be negative 3. So, what are the factors? Negative 4 times 1, negative 1 times 4. So, alin po sa dalawa ang kapag inad mo ay negative 3 ang sagot? Very good. Ito po yun. So, negative 4 at saka positive 1. So, negative 4, positive 1. Ayan po yun ha. And we're done with step number 2. Step number 3. Step number 3, sabi po doon, we will apply the zero product property. In applying the zero product property, we are just equating the factors to 0. So, ito yung isang factor, equate natin sa 0. And then, yung isang factor, equate din natin sa 0. And that's the zero product property. Yan po yun. And step number 4, we will solve for the x or solve for the roots. Yan po. So, since nandyan lang yan, si negative 4, ililipat lang sa kabila, magiging positive 4. And then si x, ililipat sa kabila, magiging negative 1. Okay po. Tama ba? Okay, and that is the value of your x. 4 and negative 1. But still, we are not yet done because sabi, meron daw step number 5 and that is checking. So, let's check. Checking tayo. Unahin po muna natin yung 4. In checking po, we go back to we use the original equation. So, that's x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Papalitan ko lang si x ng 4 ha. Yun po yung unang value natin ng x. Minus 3 times 4 minus 4 equals 0. So 4 times 4 that is 16. Negative 3 times 4 that is negative 12 minus 4 equals 0. And 16 minus 12 that is 4 minus 4 equals 0. And 0 is equal to 0. And 4 is not an extraneous root. Let's have negative 1. Kasi negative 1 naman po ang isubstitute natin. Dito tayo ha, kasi wala ng space. Negative 1 squared minus 3 times negative 1 minus 4 equals 0. Negative 1 times negative 1, that is 1. Negative 3 times negative 1, that is positive 3. Minus 4 equals 0. And 1 plus 3 is 4. Minus 4 equals 0. And 0 is equal to 0. So, they are both not an extraneous solution. So, you have your x equals 4 and x equals negative 1. Now, let's go to number 2. Example number 2. Same with example number 1. The first thing we will do is check if it is already in standard form. And this one is already in standard form. So, x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. And then step number 2, factor lang po natin sila. So, factor ni x squared, x at saka x. And factor ni 6 na kapag inad ang sagot ay 7. And that is 6 times 1. Positive ha? Positive 6 times 1. 6 times 1 is 6 and 6 plus 1 is 7. Dali, di ba? And step number 3, we will equate or we will apply the zero product property. So, equate lang po natin siya sa 0. X equals 0. And then x plus 6 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. And step number 4, solve for the value of x. Ililipat lang natin sa kabila, magiging negative 6. Ililipat natin sa kabila, magiging negative 1. Galing, di ba? Okay, so yun po yung value ng x mo. Negative 6 at saka negative 1. Now, let's proceed to step number 5 rather, and that is checking. So, pag checking ulit, balik sa original equation, substitute x squared plus 7x plus 6 equals 0. Negative 6 muna tayo. Negative 6 squared plus 7 times negative 6 plus 6 equals 0. Negative 6 times negative 6, that is 36. 7 times negative 6, that is negative 42. And plus 6 equals 0. 36 minus 42, that is negative 6 plus 6 equals 0. And 0 is equal to 0. Hiningal ako doon. Let's have the negative 1. Okay na tayo kay negative 6. Hindi po siya extraneous. Siya po ay solution. Okay, substitute negative 1 squared plus 7 times negative 1 plus 6 equals 0. Negative 1 times negative 1, that's 1. 7 times negative 1, that's negative negative 7 plus 6 equals 0, and negative 6 plus 6 equals 0, and 0 is equal to 0. So there are no extraneous solution. Okay po, lahat po yan sagot. Let's proceed to question. Example number 3. Is this already in standard form? Yes, it is. Yung C mo nga lang po ay 0. Wala kang CO. Ayan. So, standard form na po siya. Descending na po yung kanyang exponent. AX squared plus BX. Wala nga lang C. Okay po? Standard form na yun. Equals 0. Step number 2. Factor. So, in factoring this one, we use the CMF method or technique. We just get the greatest common factor of the two, and that is 3x times, ayan, para makuha natin yung number, divide natin. 3x squared divide 3x, that is x. 6x divide 3x, that is positive 2. So, 3x times x plus 2. So, yan po yung factor niya. And then, apply the zero product property. 3x equals 0 and x plus 2 equals 0. And hindi si 0 ang i-multiply sa kabila ha. Si 3 po ang i-multiply, i-divide pala, sorry. Si 3 po ang i-divide both sides. So x now is equal to 0. And this one, ililipat lang sa kabila, kaya magiging negative 2. And you have the value of your x, 0, and the value of your x. Another one is negative 2. At kapag sinubstitute po natin si 0, squared, that's 0, plus 6 times 0, equals 0, magiging 0 lang po yan. Dalawang yan. Ayan. And 0 is equal to 0. So, dito tayo. Ito yung, okay na tayo kay 0 ha? Let's have the negative 2. Substitute natin. Checking tayo. Checking. Original equation. 3x squared plus 6x equals 0. So, 3 times negative 2 squared plus 6 times negative 2 equals 0. 3 times 4. Very good. Minus po. 12 equals 0. And 3 times 4 is 12. Minus 12 equals 0. And 0 is equal to 0. Galing, no? Okay, no questions. Let's proceed to the next. The next example. Ayan. Is this already in standard form? Of course not. Wala pa po siya sa standard form kasi dapat ax squared, ang sunod ni ax squared ay bx, hindi si c. So, gawin natin standard form. Let's have the step number 1, standard form. 4x squared, ililipat natin si 16x sa kabila, magiging minus 16x, and then minus 9 equals 0. Ayan, standard form na siya. And since more than 1 po ang coefficient ni x squared, gagamitan natin siya ng AC method. AC method. AC method. Multiply mo po si A at saka si C. That's 4 times negative 9. And that is equal to negative 36. And then, hahanap ka ng factor ni negative 36 na kapag in-add mo, the answer will be negative 16. Okay po? And that is negative 18 times 2. Negative 18 times 2 is negative 36. And negative 18 plus 2 is negative 16. And isusulat natin siya dito. 4x squared. Instead of writing negative 16x, itong dalawa ang isusulat natin. Lalagyan lang natin ng x. So, negative 18x plus 2x minus 9. Plus yan ha. Yan. And then, mag-group tayo. Yung group ha, yung magkapareho, yung may kapareho. Sila ang i-group. Si 4 at saka si 2 i-group ko. Si 18 at saka si 9 i-group ko. So, 4x squared plus 2x. Ayan, sila yung magkasama. And then, si negative 18x minus 9, sila naman yung magkasama. Kasi may common sa kanila. Ganun po mag-group ha. And then, the greatest common factor of this one is 2x. Ayan. And then, divide. 4x squared divide 2x. That is 2x. Ayan, 2x. And 2x divide 2x is 1. Ayan, 1 po. And let's have this one. Common is negative 9. And negative 18x divided by 9 ay 2x, and negative 9 divided by negative 9 is positive 1. Ayan. And pagsasamahin yung nasa labas, that's 2x minus 9. Ayan po. And kokopyahin yung isa, 2x plus 1. So, ito po yung factor mo. Nasa step number 2 pa lang tayo ha. Step number 2 pa lang po tayo. Now, let's proceed to step number 3. Ayan. Wait lang, pupurahin ko lang to para may space tayo. And step number 3 is applying the zero product property. Ayan. Equate lang natin siya sa 0. So, 2x minus 9 equals 0 and 2x plus 1 equals 0. So, lipat sa kabila, 2x equals 9, positive na, 2, divide by 2, x now is equal to 9 over 2. Huwag pong inimix number yan, ha? Huwag inimix number. Hayaan lang po siyang improper fraction. Kabila naman po, 2x equals minus, negative pala, negative lang po. Yan. Missing lang natin. Negative. Since nilipat siya, maging negative 1 siya. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. X now is equal to negative 1/2. Ayan po yung value ng x mo. Ayan din ang value ng x mo. Dalawa yan. Kaya lang di pa tayo tapos. Sa-substitute pa natin to check kung tama. So, 4 times 9 over 2 squared minus 9 equals 16 times 9 over 2. And then, squared. That's 81 over 4. Tama ba ako? And then, minus 9 equals, cancel. That will become 8. This one is 1. 8 times 9 ay 72. Tama ba? Yes, 72. And cancel. 81 minus 9 equals 72. And 81 minus 9 is 72. And 72 is equal to 72. Galing, no? Ayan. Next. So, the next one. Checking pa rin ha? Checking pa rin tayo. So, okay na po tayo sa 9 over 2. Hindi po siya extraneous ha? Hindi siya extraneous solution. Wala pa tayong extraneous so far. That's a good thing. Okay, so ulit ha. Si 9 over 2 po ay hindi siya extraneous. Let's have the 1/2. 4 times negative 1/2 squared minus 9 equals 16 times negative 1/2. Ayan. And 4 times positive 1/4 kasi ni-squared natin minus 9 equals cancel 1, 8. So, magiging 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. And cancel. 1 minus 9 equals negative 8. And negative 8 is equal to negative 8. Galing, no? Galing. Saya. Okay, so we're done with this one. So, ibig sabihin, hindi rin po siya extraneous root. Okay, now let's have the last example. Last example na po tayo ha. Last example na po. Okay, so the first thing we will do is, ayan, wait lang po ha. Ang una natin gagawin ay gawing standard form yung ating equation. Is the last example in standard form already? Yes, it is. So, isusulat lang po natin 7x squared plus 30x. Ayan. Plus 8 equals 0. And to have the factor, step number 2 is factor the quadratic trinomial. And we will use the AC method since more than 1 po yung numerical coefficient ni x squared. Okay. And let's have the AC method. Let's solve. A is 7 and C is 8. And 7 times 8 is equal to 56. And let's find the number factor ni 56 na kapag inad mo, the answer will be 30x, positive 30x. So let's That is 28. Tama ba ako? 28 times 2. 28 plus 2 is 30. And 28 times 2 is 56. So instead of writing 30x, we will write 28 and 2. Tataglagan lang po natin ng x. So that's 7x squared plus 28x plus 2x plus 8 equals 0. And let's group. Pagsasamahin ko po yung may common factor, and that is 7x squared plus 28x. And then 2x plus 8. Ayan. And kukunin yung greatest common factor, and that is, ilan po? 7x. 7x, matitira ay x, and then 28x divided by 7x, the answer will be positive 4. And common sa dalawa is 2, and then 2x divided by 2 is x, and 8 divided by 2 is positive 4. And then pagsasamahin po yung dalawang nasa labas, that's 7x plus 2, and kukopyahin yung isa sa magkapareho. That's x plus 4. And we're done with step number 2. Step number 2 pa lang tayo tapos ha, hindi pa tayo tapos sa lahat. Okay, and let's have, wait lang, burahin ko lang po. Burahin ko lang to para may space. Ulit tayo. Let's proceed to step number 3. What's step number 3 again? Step number 3 is applying the square root property. Very good. I know, not the square root property, sorry. The zero product property. We will apply the zero product property. That's step number 3. Equate lang natin sa 0. 7x plus 2 equals 0. And x plus 4 equals 0. And 7x equals negative 2 kasi nilipat, divide by 7, divide by 7. Your x now is equal to negative 2 over 7. And that is your first x. Let's have the other one. X equals negative 4. Tapos, kasi nilipat lang. Okay. Questions? None. So, let's check if there are, magkakaroon tayo ng extraneous solution. So, check tayo. Substitute lang natin. Let's start with negative 2 over 7. So, 7 times negative 2 over 7 squared plus 30 times negative 2 over 7 plus 8 equals 0. Let's simplify. 7, and then this will become positive 4 over 49 plus, no, not plus, minus, that's negative 60 over 7 plus 8 equals 0. And pwedeng i-cancel. It will become 1. This one is 7. So 4 over 7 minus 60 over 7 plus 8 equals 0. And that is negative 56 over 7 plus 8 equals 0. And negative 56 divided by 7 is negative 8 plus 8 equals 0. And negative 8 plus 8 is 0. And that is equal to 0. Okay, so negative 2 over 7 is not an extraneous solution. So let's have the next one. The last one, checking. Checking tayo. Last na to. Okay, the last one is negative 4. Wait lang, hinahanap ko yung cursor ko. Yeah, negative 4 tayo. So let's have negative 4. Substitute natin sa negative 4 ha. Erase lang po natin ito para may space. Checking for negative 4. Yeah. Again ha, your answer, the value of your x is negative 2 over 7 and negative 4. Ang ginagawa lang po natin is checking to find out if we will have an extraneous solution. And so far, wala pa po tayong extraneous solution. So let's substitute the last one. That's negative 4. Tama ba ako? Negative 4 squared plus 30 times negative 4 plus 8 equals 0. And 7 times positive 16, then minus 120 plus 8 equals 0. Equals 0. And 7 times 16, 42, 112. That's 112 minus 120. 120 plus 8 equals 0. And 112 minus 120, that is negative 8 plus 8 equals 0. And 0 is equal to 0. And we don't have an extraneous solution. Lahat sila ay solution. And that's the last example. And we're done. Okay po. And we're done with quadratic equation by factoring. So we're done with extracting. We're also done with factoring. And for your seat work, for your enhancement, ayan, seat work po tayo ha. That's number 13 na po. For me to know if you really understand this one is your seat work. That's page 75 of your book and 1 to 10. For questions, i-PM na lang po ako sa messenger. Thank you and see you when I see you. Bye!